One.
Hi, this is Rich Glazer from the Tri-State Elite Umpires Association. I'm here with President and founder of the association, John Gallante, and this is the third edition of our mailbag. And we're going to jump right in with the questions that we received very recently. John, what are the responsibilities of an assigner to their umpires? This question has been sent to us from Alex from Cedarville.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the responsibilities of an assigner to their umpires is probably a lot more in depth than we're probably used to, and I take that responsibility very, very seriously. Basically, the umpires that work for me are basically hitching their sail to my wagon in terms of their umpiring career. So not only do we have to supply them with just the games that they get assigned, but we have to assign them based on their ability to a game, league, tournament, or other situation where they can succeed with the game level and their umpiring ability. So that's number one. Number two, we have to understand each umpire's goals in their umpiring career. So we have plenty of umpires that just want to umpire in their local area, in their little league, and give something back and interact with the kids. That's perfect. I know who those guys are, and they stay there. I also have other guys that get into this that want to be put on the fast track to college baseball. Those guys are treated entirely differently. So it requires quite a bit more effort to get to know everybody's goals and aspirations and cater their assignments to their goals and aspirations, not just to make it as easy as possible on me as an assigner to fill the assignment list for the week. Strategic assigning requires a lot more effort than just randomly assigning umpires into slots to make sure games are filled. So we had a question earlier in the day that we put out an extensive video on that basically outlines what you should be looking for in an association, but an assigner specifically needs to supply you with games that you deserve and you're qualified for, put you in positions to succeed, and put you in positions where you can attain your umpiring goals that you have in your career. And also, if they have connections, or hopefully they have at least made efforts to make connections to higher levels above the level they assign, to get you in front of people that can help you advance if they can't do it themselves.
Good answer. John, this question is coming from Joe. Last name begins with the letter W, from Minnesota. That's a long way out there. Anyway, this is a very long question. It's kind of creating a scenario. John, your take on this issue, if you don't mind. I umpire youth baseball ages 9 through 15. I have a pet peeve about too many players swinging bats between innings. The younger kids especially do not understand basic safety. I make a point of politely addressing this in pregame coaches meeting. I ask coaches to comply. Only 2 players with a bat, the batter and the one on-deck batter. They nod their heads in agreement, but sure enough, as soon as the third out is recorded, the defensive teams run to the dugout, and typically 6 or more kids grab bats and start swinging away in front of the dugout. Drives me nuts. Am I alone on this? Should I ignore it? And if a kid gets hit in the teeth, can I just shrug my shoulders? I appreciate your thoughts.
Yeah, I appreciate the question by Joe, and he asked if he's alone on this. He's certainly alone on this podcast mailbag. I heard you say the word pet peeve, so I wanted to Google the definition of pet peeve. A pet peeve is a minor annoyance that an individual identifies as particularly irritating to them to a greater degree than would be expected based on the experiences of others. That's the definition of pet peeve. Okay, so pet peeves have no place in umpiring at all. And if Joe was looking for someone to sit here and agree with him and say, yeah, I hate when kids swing bats in between innings too, he asked the wrong guy. So in between innings, I would suggest, first of all, not bringing it up at ground rules anytime. And secondly, in between innings, stand on the third base or the first base line with your mask tucked under your arm and count the pitches that the pitcher is throwing so that we can resume play as quickly as possible. Let's focus on the game, not the kids swinging in the on-deck circle, okay? Especially in between innings. I think we need to get away from this. I think you referred to it as minutia in a previous episode of this. But this is way overstepping bounds to get ourselves in the situations that we don't need to get into. So when we're perfect with ball strike out safe, then maybe we'll get into this stuff about the too many players swinging bats in between innings at the youth level. But you've asked if everybody's properly equipped, and Joe's even mentioning at ground rules that only one player can have a bat. So it's not on us if somebody gets hurt swinging a bat over there. And I don't want to sound insensitive to this, but focus on the balls and strikes, outs and safes. Stay away from gates being closed, coach sitting on a bucket, too many batters swinging in the on-deck circle. It looks like an umpire that's nitpicking at things that have nothing to do with the game. Stay away from it. And you asked probably the completely wrong person in the universe if you expected me to agree with this point of view. But I give him credit for asking the question, and I appreciate him watching. But I disagree tremendously.
Good answer. John, this next question, another long question coming to us from Ray, last name beginning with the letter G, from Naperville, Illinois, which is out there near Chicago. And the question is as follows. I've been following your site for a while. I'm always looking for tips. This is my 8th year on handling weird plays. He's looking for tips on how to handle weird plays. Just wondering how school districts in your area are handling licensing fees for umpires. We here in Illinois have been told by the IHSA, it probably stands for Illinois High School Association, that our fees are not going to be refunded or credited since they still had to pay for various things in order to prepare the official for this season. I guess the season that's been canceled. Thanks. Looking forward to your responses.
Yeah, here in New Jersey, I think they've been really good about it in terms of saying that next year in 2021, high school umpires won't have to pay that fee again, which I think is great. I think in the grand scheme of things that the fee is fairly small here. I think it's $65 or something like that. So, you know, if they had to keep it, we had to repay it. I certainly understand that. But, you know, everybody in this situation in an official capacity here that has decision-making abilities, they're all in tough spots. So I don't want to try to sit here and pass judgment, even though I'm pretty opinionated as is. But I just think this would be an unfair place to criticize anybody in Illinois for making the umpires pay again next year, especially if they had to put out money, you know, for rule books and things of that nature. So I think everybody who's penny pinching here or you know, wants to take a shot at whatever high school governing body that they belong to about this, I think should really take a step back and be stop being so penny wise, pound foolish. If you got to pay the $65 again next year, it is what it is. I mean, I wouldn't get too caught up in it. I don't think it's too healthy.
John, the next question is coming from Kevin. Last name begins with the letter C as in Charles. Doesn't offer a location. His question is this: I'm in several umpire Facebook groups and a lot of scenario questions get asked. Almost every scenario posed, you get 2, 3, or 4 different answers. Sometimes the issue is the commentators come from different rule sets, but in general, even people quoting a specific rule set still have varying answers. This also happens in association meetings in person, in which all of the umpires are working from the same rule set. Does this concern you, and what can we do to fix it? Thanks, and keep up the great work. I really enjoy the podcast, especially since we can't get out on the field.
Yeah, good question. I think I see this all the time. I'm in a bunch of umpire Facebook groups, and obviously I go to high school meetings for our high school chapter. I just think we're argumentative by nature. I think we nitpick at each other. I think sometimes umpires are our worst enemy in the way that we had a little trouble there.
The phone tipped over.
I think we nitpick at each other, and then we don't trust that somebody knows the rules, so we go look something else up. And the rule book is so complicated, you could find varying answers to any question if you manipulate the rule into your own logic. So I think the fix to this is having somebody who is clear and concise at the front of the room, who has the respect of the others, someone who can stand in front of a high school group or stand in front of an umpires association and garner respect to, so they won't be second guessed, and somebody who has some trustworthy answers to give. There's always, in a rule interpretation, there's always the real life example of it, and then there's the by the book black and white answer. And I think somebody who can thread that needle would be very valuable to all umpiring organizations. But on a more grand scheme, I think we should focus a whole lot more of these Facebook comments, Facebook group threads, and high school meetings on actually umpiring, like mechanics. How can you get better at getting calls right? How can you be more accurate behind the plate? How can you get in better position? How can you handle coaches better? I think that is way more effective from people who can train and talk about umpiring than literally going by odd rule scenarios. And I think we get so caught up in this rule book fascination that we don't focus enough on the real umpiring side of things.
John, I want to pick up on that and give you a part B to that answer, which was very good. But before I happened to really luck out and meet you about 7 years ago, I had been with an organization that held several meetings during the course of the year, and everybody came dressed in their umpire jackets and so forth. And I thought I was going to learn some things, and it turned out to be 100 or more guys just exchanging war stories. I couldn't believe it. A total waste of my time.
Yeah. Anytime, a big giveaway, right? If I see anybody show up to a high school baseball meeting or any umpire meeting with their uniform on, big red flag to me. Change into some street clothes and come into the cafeteria so we can talk. There's no reason to have your uniform on. So that's just like a little thing. Kevin Schneider talked about yesterday about umpires being able to throw the ball back to the pitcher and like that giving him some insight. To me, it's the same thing. But we a lot of times people get involved in the umpire instruction because they want to hear themselves talk, or they want to be the person at the front of the room talking. That should not be the end goal. The goal should be to help people get better at umpiring. It should not be about you. It should be about helping the people you're talking to. And you can tell pretty quickly if you're in the audience, whether your instructor or speaker or guest speaker has that in the forefront of his mind, or if he's just talking, to appease himself.
Yeah. My first reaction when I was at that meeting was, how soon do we eat lunch? Because as soon as they say lunch, I'm taking off and not coming back.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys probably feel the same way.
Anyway, our last question, another good question from a gentleman named Alan, doesn't offer location because I think he fears some retaliation. But the question is as follows. My association gives me plenty of games, but very little training. There also doesn't appear to be an attainable path to advance. I am a loyal guy, but I am getting frustrated.
Yeah, I really sympathize with him because a lot of umpires end up in these situations. A lot of umpires are very loyal to the organizations they started with or they currently are members of. But if the association is not giving you what you need as an umpire to either get to where you want to go or make the money you want to make or improve as much as you want to improve, you have to start putting feelers out there to find another organization. And I don't know where Alan is from, so I don't know what the umpire organization landscape looks like in that part of the country. But generally, there's some organization that is setting themselves apart from the others in every region of the country that can help you. So if you don't think that your organization is being run properly to the point where you may be falling behind or not getting what you need, you have to start looking around your general area, even if that may mean some negative repercussions in your organization if it's found out. And we've got to get rid of that too as umpire organizations. We have to stop the retaliatory treatment. This guy should not be afraid to share his location because of how his assigner or somebody in his organization may take this question. But don't do me a favor, don't toil away just working whatever games they give you and not get better and not have a chance to advance in umpiring just because you're either afraid of their reaction or you want to be strictly loyal to these guys, because you need to look out for yourself. And I would say that to all of my umpires. If I'm not giving you what you need, don't stay here. I don't want to hold anybody back. And that's why we constantly try to get guys who want to go to college baseball into college baseball. Even though that doesn't do a whole lot for our organization on the ground, that doesn't help us cover, perfect game or things of that nature below perfect game to have Kurt Widener or Jerry Wilgus out there umpiring college baseball. But it does help them. And that's what our focus should be on the umpires.
I want to throw out an open offer to everybody who submits mailbag questions, and the questions are terrific. They're some of them are very provocative, and they elicit a great response from John. But I want to extend an invitation to anybody out there who are following these podcasts, that if they're within striking distance of our location in South Jersey, get in touch with us if you're looking to join an organization where the training is very high level, quality training, lots of games, and it'll be probably the best move you could ever make for your umpiring career. So if you're within striking distance of South Jersey, please get in touch with us, speak to John, and make arrangements to be part of our organization. Probably be the best move you ever make.
Yeah, another thing to add to that, a lot of good points there, but like, if you belong to an organization in our area, whether it's Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, wherever you are, I don't care who you work for on the side, or I don't care who you belong to, what organization you belong to, or what other organizations you work games for. That's completely irrelevant to me. If you want to come here and get some training, you don't have to leave your other organization. You don't have to not work games for anybody else. Work for me whenever you can or whenever you want to. Come to our clinics, come to our free evaluations, come to our free training. Get on our email list to get, information that might be valuable to you. And we're all about servicing the games well and getting umpires in the right spots, getting the umpires better just on a base level, and getting umpires where they want to go. If that's college baseball, great. If it's Little League baseball, also great. But we just don't do things like many organizations have done in the past. And I think the faster we can get this thing turned around to the future of making this about umpires and not umpire assigners, I think we'll all be better off in the long run with better umpire careers and better umpires for the kids, players, and coaches.
Very good. John, I think that just about wraps up the mailbag for this week. Real good job on the answers. We've had some really good questions today. And I hope that I thank the people who took time to contact us. Stay in touch with us and, shoot us some mailbag questions at any time, and we'll do the very best to answer them. And again, anybody who's interested, just get in touch with us.
Yep. And if anybody wants to submit a question to the mailbag, whole lot of avenues to do it. You can go to our tseumpires.com Facebook, tseumpires.com, our website, and you can comment on this video below on any of the videos, and we will basically take them from all of those different avenues. If it's an applicable question that we think people would want to know the answer to, we'll include it on our next edition of the mailbag. Thanks for watching.